and Merry Christmas Eve. Happy Friday. My name is Vinny, and I am back again to discuss my all time favorite band, and that is Rush. In my last video, I talked about the album Signals and how it was my gateway into the universe of Rush. It changed my life, and how I became a big time Rush fan, how they became my favorite band, and all that stuff, all that good stuff. In this video, I'd like to talk about the next album that came, the follow up to Signals, and that is Grace Under Pressure, which was another obviously very important album in my journey with Rush. And they're all important, but this one was extremely important because it was the first time after getting into the band that I was anticipating, I was aware of the band and anticipating that next record. Like, what are they going to do next? And all through my life as a fan, that's been the story of my journey with Rush. It's always been they put out an album and you go through everything with the songs and the tour and everything else in between. And then it's like, well, what are they going to do now? Now what are they going to do? What are they going to do next? Every album is like a chapter in not only for them, but for us as fans. We all know how it is, right? Anyway, I'm going to get into that. The songs, mostly. I'm not going to get too deep into the lyrics. I think I could do a separate video about that, but I'll talk a little bit about them since it's relevant. To begin, I think the one thing that's also really interesting, not only about the record, but as following the band, the time between albums. There's a lot that happens when you're growing up. Especially, I was growing up in the '80s. This is before there was internet and before access to a lot of information and stuff. Wasn't really that much information to go by. And even though Rush was on MTV sometimes, um, compared to other bands, they were on MTV and they had radio play, but compared to other bands, not as much. So it was always like a big deal when they were on, or if there was interviews or something. It was like, oh my God, Rush. But very hard to find. So not that much. So when you go from getting into Signals, right, finding out about the band, going through my whole, like I said, gateway, getting into the band, oh my God, Rush, getting that first record, Signals, and then the time between that and when this album is released, it's about a year and a half, but that it felt like 10 years, really. In that time when there was no internet, it feels like a very, very long time, and a lot happens in between that. So I'm going to talk about that a bit, really quickly. One of the first things that happened when I got into Rush is it made me want to play guitar right away. I mean, right off the bat, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to play. I remember being in like junior high school music class, and there were guitars on the walls hanging, and I would just grab them and be playing around them. So right away, I got guitar lessons, and some of the first songs I learned were Rush songs. Was I think "Fly by Night" was one of them, and then "Red Barchetta." Uh, just the rhythm parts. I didn't really learn too much lead, just basic. I was learning the basics. But those two songs, the thing about it, what I'm trying to get at, is like other bands that I listened to before Rush, I was purely a fan, purely just listening to them. But with Rush, it was like I was the fan, but I was also learning their songs, learning how to play them as I was just starting out as a guitar player. And then the rest of my life. Now, in the beginning, I only knew a couple songs. Like I said, "Fly by Night," "Red Barchetta." A little later on, so in between this time, I'm starting to play guitar and starting to learn songs, and also trying to go back and investigate about this band and what they've done before. So it's a combination of those things. It's a two-pronged thing. It's multi-layered like that. It's always been that in my whole life. And that's what's so special about it. There's this intimate thing about being able to play this song because when you're playing the song, even if it's just the rhythm parts, you get inside the song and it makes you love it more, you know. But that started to happen, and I started to go back and grab some of their albums. I think the first ones I bought after Signals, in between Signals and Grace Under Pressure, was Moving Pictures, of course. And oddly enough, the one of the first albums I actually bought was Crest of Steel. I think the album cover just is so unique. But I'll get into that album on another video. But I remember seeing that album and being like, what is it with this album? This album cover looks so weird and stuff. I remember buying that at Sears Mall, Record World. And I think Fly By Night was another one because, again, I wanted to play along to the record. So if I was learning a song from guitar lessons, I like to play along with it. So I had Fly By Night, Moving Pictures. A little later on, Exit Stage Left, I remember getting for Christmas. And that was really cool, too, because if Signals was a gateway to Rush overall, Exit Stage Left was a gateway, and I would still say that now to anyone who's just getting into Rush. Exit Stage Left is a perfect gateway in terms of learning about Rush's past before Signals. Or between 2112, mostly between 2112 and Signals, but in general, the past, mostly the prog era. But that was really great. And so I got to know some of their songs, not all of them, but I gravitated mostly towards the moving picture stuff and the Signal stuff. And then obviously some of the permanent. I didn't get Permanent Waves right away, but Exit Stage Left had half the album on it because I had Spirit Radio, Free Will, Jacob's Ladder, and that was enough for me, you know. So little by little, I started to learn some of their songs and get to know them. So that was really fun in between the two albums to get to know them a bit. And obviously, learning about that Neil writes the lyrics and that they're incredible musicians. Like, not just your average musician. These are some of the best musicians in rock. And just being like, wow, I discovered a pretty good band here. So anyway, that was a fun period going between the albums and the build up. Being like, again, coming back to this album, Grace Under Pressure, the build up to it. Like, what are they gonna do next? Like, I had no idea. I'm new to this band. What's it gonna be like? What are they gonna do? I have no idea. And so the build up was really cool. The hype. I remember the radio as it got closer and closer to the release, which was 1984. Everybody was feeling that way. Everybody was like, what are they going to do? Now, it took them longer, evidently, because they were looking for a producer and stuff like that, because they got rid of Terry Brown, which produced all their other albums before that. As a fan, I had no idea. I had no idea about producers and stuff. I was just like, so the radio, I think mostly in particular with me, it was WBAB on Long Island. They were very instrumental in hyping up this album for me personally. Because I remember every morning they were talking about it every now and then. I remember when they mentioned that the album name is going to be Grace Under Pressure and that the release date. And then the biggest moment was when they first played music from it. And the funny thing is, even though Distant Early Warning was the first video and first, I guess, quote-unquote single, for me, the first track that I heard premiere was great, Between the Wheels, the closer. But that was the first song that I heard. And that blew me the fuck away. I mean, I thought it was the best song I ever heard in my life. I remember taping it off the radio. I remember being ready for it and playing it for my friends, being like, dude, check this out. Because I thought it was badass then. I still think it's badass now. It took them a long time to bring it back into the set list. R30, and that was how long into their career that they brought it back. And when they did, it was like a dream come true because I always felt like that's the best song on the album. I'll go through every song one by one, but that was the first track I heard. And the other thing I want to mention about radio back then that was really cool is unlike now, where they just play the same goddamn songs all the time. And, and not that I don't like these songs anymore. I try not to take things for granted, but I can't, it's hard to listen, I don't know, it's a mixed feeling. It's hard to listen to rock radio now because they do play the same songs all the time. And the best way to enjoy some of those songs, like Hotel California or Freebird, is just to not listen to them, and so that when you hear them, they sound really awesome. But they play them all the time. They don't play any deep tracks or anything. But back in the '80s, when I was started listening to rock radio, it was a lot better because they would just apply, especially when a new album came out, like this one, WBAB. I remember they would just play anything. But here's another song off the new album, and they would just play Between the Wheels, just only when it came out. But I remember they went and played Body Electric, Red Sector A, Enemy Within. They would just freaking play. Just, here, I'm going to play it. Check this out. Nowadays, they don't even do that if a new band has a new album. They never, lucky if they even tell you there's a new album. But they used to do that with this band and other bands, you know. Maybe they got afraid after a while that people were taping stuff and then they didn't want to. I don't know. I think that was for SoundScan or whatever. But that was the cool thing because they would play songs, and you get to know the album, and you get to hear the album. You're like, wow, I can't wait to get this. So I remember the day I bought this. Now I got two copies here. This is my copy. It's like shot to hell because I wore it out. This is my original copy that I bought when it came out. I don't know if it was actually the first day it came out, but it was pretty soon after that. Now, the album cover is very abstract. This is my copy, which is all beat up and stuff. I'll show you the other one. One of my neighbors in my last apartment gave me this other version, which is a lot cleaner. Has a ticket stub from Pittsburgh. And the album cover is obviously very abstract. Very unique looking, very fucked up. I remember seeing it in the record store and being like, "That's it? Holy crap! That's I've never seen anything like that." Typical Hugh Side, but I think it's one of his best album covers. I mean, it's so weird looking and so like cool looking, the head and everything. But the biggest thing that blew me away was the back. They hardly ever do this too, when they put the three of them on the back cover. But the biggest thing, now look, I couldn't really care less when it comes to image, and Rush has never really, to me anyway, I know they wore the robes in the 70s and stuff like that, but for the most part, they didn't go too crazy when it came to image. But I will admit, when I first got into the band, there was a certain way that well, in particular, Getty, that he looked, that we were used to. He had the Rickenbacker, he had his hair a certain way, and then he got the mullet. The mullet here. Oh my God! When I first saw this, it was jarring. It's like Getty, But it's not that important to me. But it's at the same time, you can't not notice it either. Especially at that time, it's like, wow, Getty, you can really see your face now. Because his hair used to be really long and stuff like that. But not that it's not important. But who's this? Hey, how's it going there? Who's there? Casey? Casey? Okay. Well, like I said, not a big deal. Not a big deal. I think it's a cool picture, actually. Alex looks badass. They all look badass. And it's cool. So, but yeah, I got home and I played the record. And this is the first time. With Signals, like I said, when I first got it, I pretty much just like went straight to like Subdivisions and New World Man, Countdown. I kind of like skipped throughout. It took me a while to really get to where I was playing the album all the way through and appreciating it all. But with this album, Grace Under Pressure, I came home and put it on side one and side two in its entirety, and then played it again and again and again. And I just remember just being like, it was a really radical change from Signals. And now the thing is is radical change. I was not disappointed. I was not like, oh my God, like, this is the worst thing ever. It wasn't like that for me. It was definitely jarring. It was definitely, like I said, like nothing they ever done before. We're coming after Signals and after Moving Pictures and Permanent Waves. I mean, very different from even the last time. Even though it's in that era with Signals. It's a very left turn, very much a left turn, I think. Sonically and overall sound of it. And Very, very different, lyrically, musically. But at the same time, once you get into it, once you start listening to it, it still sounds like Rush. It still sounds like Rush. Some people, it doesn't sound like Rush. I don't, they, not in any way did they lose their identity. Even though it doesn't sound overall like Moving Pictures or Permanent Way, it still sounds like Rush, even though it's crazy, crazy unique sound. Hey everybody, who we got there? Fish, how's it going? How's it going? So very unique sound with, and let me be more specific. Like, say for instance, on Moving Pictures, you know, or previously with Rush, it was a lot of power chords, right? Like with Alex, a lot of typical like power chords. A lot of his other stuff that he does, but I mean, I don't know if they've ever been traditional, but more closer to more of a traditional sound. Whereas this was more pastels, hitting chords, letting them ring, kind of like Andy Summers and the Police, like Distant Only Warning, right? That's the first thing you hear, right? Is you after the weird sound, you hear Alex hitting a chord and letting it um, ring out. There's a lot of that, a lot of chordal playing, a lot of synthesizers, but I really think this is Alex's album. There's a lot of synthesizers, but Alex Lifeson really came back in a big way from Signals, where he was just trying to let the other guys shine, especially Getty with the keyboards. I thought that album was pretty thick with keyboards. This one is too, but Alex is on top. He's leading the band on this. Anyway, so the sound, the overall sound, hitting me right away, and some of the. But let me go song by song. Distant Early Warning was the opening track. I remember learning this on guitar, and it was a lot of fun to play. It taught me about, it's so funny. Alex does a lot of like what's like chord melodies and stuff, like the solo, and I consider these things solos on this album. These chordal solos. Distant Early Warning has one, and there's a bunch more on the album. Um, but the one in Distant Early Warning, the playing over the whole song, the entire song is like a chordal solo, but it's such a different song. Because like I said, as a guitar player, I was playing ones like Red Bar Cheddar or Fly By Night or Limelight, Tom Sawyer. It's a very different. I remember learning this from in a Focus 2 Guitar Center, and it's like very different. A lot of chords, a lot of arpeggios, and chordal melodies, which is almost akin to jazz, but in a rock. He did it in a rock way, in a very unique way. Alex Lifeson is so unique on this album. But Just an Early Warning sets the stage and sets the tone for a lot of that on this record. Getty's bass is obviously killer on Just an Early Warning. Um, he's all over it. I know he played less on this album. There's a couple songs where he doesn't even play bass at all. Bass guitar, that is. Um, he's covering the bass line on other things, other synthesizers and stuff. But on Distant Early Warning, it's typical Getty. A quintessential Getty. I think he's really got his own style going. Neil Peart is all over this song too. And obviously that keyboard riff in 7, it's 7/8. It's so iconic. And it's in 7. What's not to like about that? I'll tell you what, the one thing I like about Distant Early Warning was the video. And again, I come back to the image thing. This is where they established a whole new image, really, going forward. Not only with his mullet, and it wasn't just Getty. Everybody had mullets at that time, just about every band. Maybe not the hair band so much, but there was a lot of bands that had that mullet. But the mullet was one, and then using the Steinberger bass over the Rickenbacker. We were so used to that Rickenbacker. We thought we was going to use that Rickenbacker. I know, I felt like Geddy Lee was going to use the Rickenbacker forever. Like there's some guitar players or musicians that play the same instrument all their life. Like Slash and Guns N' Roses. You're pretty much always going to see him with a Les Paul, right? Most of the time. But Geddy, no. He went from he didn't give a fuck. He was bored and he wanted to try another bass. So he went for the Steinberger. Here he is on using it there. Can I get the thing working or what? There he is, using that Steinberger, you know. But that was, I remember at first it was jarring to see that. Like, what the hell's that thing? Now, he still did use it in some of the other videos, like this one, which I loved the video. Body Electric and Enemy Within. We'll talk about that in a minute. But generally speaking, the tour, he was using the Steinberg. And that was a big part of his image going forward, mostly. Um, if you want to call it image. But Distant Early Warning has some cool sounds to it in the keyboards. I think he was bringing in some other keyboards on top of the ones he used before. And very exciting song. I mean, right off the bat, it pretty much kicks you in the face. Like, it starts out a little, seemingly like it's chilled out, but it kicks into gear right away. Right away. And the album, the one thing about this album is it's relentless. So, great song, great lyrics. I think lyrically, without getting, too deep, but like I said, I'll do that in another video. Compassion. It's about compassion. The world weighs on my shoulders, but what am I to do? All that stuff. You know, it's just like about, giving a fuck about what's going on in the world and paying attention. And, someone might be like, well, I don't give a fuck. Yeah? Well, I give a fuck, I think Neil, in another song, I think on Snakes and Arrows, he talked about having enough fear for me and you. I forgot the lyric, but it's about saying, I give a fuck. You don't give a fuck. Well, I give a fuck. I care. Excuse the language. No, but good song, great song. It's a classic. It was an instant classic. And by the way, like I said about the videos on MTV, it was very rare to find most of the time when it came to their other videos. Whenever they played them, it was a big deal, especially before we had VCRs. But Just an Early Warning is the most played video they ever had. That video was on all the time. So that was I mean, I don't know if Rush was overplayed ever, but that was the closest thing to it. And I didn't mind it whatsoever. I loved it every time. But the follow-up song, now, Just Only One sets the tone, but the next song, After Image, really kicks the album into gear. I mean, relentless. This whole album is so relentless. Not one slow song on the album. And After Image is no exception. Um, it is ferocious when it comes in with the keyboards and the guitar. Um, and the cool thing is, I think I've heard this album is described as, well, the guitars were back in front and they quote unquote crushed the dynamics of the keyboards. I don't know if I would agree with that. I think the guitars blend in with the keyboards in a really cool way on this album. They play together and almost make their own sound. But on this song, a lot of it's on After Image, uh, with the intro, and then it kicks in with um, that ska riff. Um, but on this album, see, on the last couple albums, they were experimenting with. Some people call it reggae. I think it's more like ska. I think Digital Man, a little bit of reggae, I guess, but there's a lot more ska going on. Between Wheels has that too. But the thing that's cool about it is Rush took those influences. I didn't know it was ska when I heard it, because it's what it is. They're taking it and doing it and putting it with their own style. So it's Rush. It's really taking ska and making it Rush. So that's what I love about After Image. When you kick into the verses, suddenly you were gone. From all the lives you left your mark upon. And such a profound lyrics. The whole entire song is, but that opening line is profound. But kicks right into the. I don't know if I would call it a pre-chorus. I would just call it more of a verse, part two. But that's my favorite part. Is that da-da, something very Red Barchetta about that part. I remember that part. Very something Red Barchetta about that, even though it's supposed to be ska or whatever. And then the choruses, I feel the way you would. Alex's guitar on this album just gives me a chill up my spine, especially in the choruses when he does that that part. So compressed and so in your face. Amazing, amazing. And they repeat that a couple times. My favorite part of the song overall is the middle section. Is the guitar? It's a guitar solo, but it's really a band solo in a way. Um, it's so emotional. The whole it's so incredibly uh, like thick with keyboards and the drums, and it's so thoughtful. Like it puts you in that mood, and it's just setting up all these layers. I think when they did it live, they had some lasers and really cool vibe. But that middle section, Alex's solo, he just builds it almost like it's funny. It's almost like similar to what he does in La Via Strangiana, except in this time he's doing chords and chordal melodies, setting it up. But just there's something to be said about guitar players. There's something to be said about hitting a chord and letting it ring. I know there's a lot of guitar players. I'm sometimes guilty of it too, where you want to like be busy and you want to fill in the void with riffs and licks and hot licks and things. Sometimes just hitting a chord and letting it ring is powerful, and Alex does that so incredibly on this album, and especially in that middle section where Geddy's pounding on the keyboard, dan, 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 and Alex is just ding, and then he builds it, but he builds it and gets busier and busier, and then he just breaks out and just he speaks. It's almost like he's the other singer in the band. If Geddy is the vocalist, well, Alex is sort of the other singer, but on the guitar, and he does that in this solo. Because this song is about their friend that died in a car wreck. He used to hang out at the studio. So they were all feeling it. I think I read something where they were all Alex. I think he was. They were all in tears or they were making it when they were recording it. And no exception with Alex when he did the solo, you could hear it. He's crying. He's putting all of his emotions into that. So amazing song. He does the same thing in Red Sector A. This album is so emotional. That's the one thing because he's talking about a lot of kind of personal, but also world events. I remember he was, hey man, talking about Neil Peart in his lyrics was reflecting a lot of world events, yet um, putting it in the songs and making it like in Red Sector A. I think I was watching a Rockline video where they were talking about, or something, where he was talking about how it's left up to the listener as to when and where it is. You know, he doesn't specify in Red Sector A. To me, it reminds me of the Holocaust. It sounds to me it's about the Holocaust, but Red Sector A kind of makes it feel like it's in the future or something. Now, the title actually comes from it's a place when they went for the launch in Florida, the space shuttle launch. That is, it's an area called Red Sector A, by where the space shuttle launches. Countdown, that whole deal. But that's where they got the title from. Was from the launch. And the funny thing, I always thought that they made these words up, these phrases. Red Sector A, just an early warning. Grace under pressure. Like I thought these were just their things they made up. But I didn't know that, Neil reads books and this, that, and the other thing. But cool title. Alex, again, like I said, very emotional guitar. He's all over this song. This is pretty much his song. And then Geddy's vocals are so emotive, are so his vocal delivery is just killer on this song. And the keyboards are amazing. That and the guitar together, killer. Especially live. You ever watch the Grace Under Pressure video? It is so kick-ass. When he says smoking guns or something, and the bomb goes up. There's like something, they blow up like a fireworks in the show. and it's so intense. But the live version is the best version, I think. But the studio version is pretty good. Alex's chordals, again, another chordal solo, and the rest of the song too. The thing about Alex that's really cool is, well, there's this album or there's other albums. Um, I don't care if he's playing around keyboards or not. His songs are fun to play. Always interesting to play, and it's not just the solo; it's the whole song. It's all the riffs from beginning to end. He makes it fun from beginning to end. It's not like you're playing some boring riffs and okay, here's the solo, good, best part of the song. No, like Red Sector A, it's like after him, just early warning. They're fun to play from the first note to the last. He makes it all fun to play, and Red Sector A is no exception. It's one of his best guitar playing, best guitar parts. But Getty's vocals are amazing. Neil's little get into electronics with the drums. Again, reinventing himself. That's another thing of Rush. This album reinvents Rush. A lot of people didn't get it. I'll talk about that later. The fans' reactions. But this was like them reinventing themselves in a lot of ways. Alex guitar playing, the drums, everything. Um, and again, Getty doesn't play bass, but the keyboards are awesome, especially the sequencer going on the bass. Year live, it's badass. Um, Moving on, the enemy within, part one of Fear. This is the closer of side one, and it's one of my all-time favorites. This is definitely a song that helped me in life when I was younger, get through some tough times, because it deals with fear inside you that's you know fucking with you, and you got to deal with it and fight through it because you're trying to do stuff, you're trying to live life, or trying to accomplish something. I think it's um, a kid like if you're a musician. There's a perfect example with Enemy Within. We all musicians or performers. When you have a gig, right? You got to play in front of. I don't care if it's one person or 1,000. You got that pit in your stomach. If you don't have it, you don't have the edge. But we all have that little fear of like fucking up, or just playing in front of people. You have to go out there. Oh, I got a gig tonight. I got to go out and play. So you practice your ass off. So you do your best you can. But once you can't get rid of that fear. You got to fight through it. So when he sings things like "I'm not giving in to security under pressure," I'm not giving up on, uh, I'm not giving in. I'm not giving up. It's basically saying, "Fuck you, fear. Fuck you. I'm gonna do this." It's like taking fear and taking that energy, turning it into positive energy, and being focused. Like when you play a gig, right? If you're a musician, you take that fear and you focus it into energy, and it makes you kick ass and everything. But whether it's that or in life, you're just taking that fear, saying, "I'm gonna kick some ass. I'm gonna kick fear's ass." But lyrically, that's what it says to me. And growing up, it helped me get through a lot of tough times, whether it be with music or I think with me it was more just when I was in high school. I was a very insecure person. I'll admit that right now, and it helped me get through tough times where I was, you know, kind of confused or whatever, uh, and kind of stressed out over things. But musically, very underrated song, and a lot of ska influence. But again, a very what I like about this song is very. I love the textures, the combination of all the sounds together. They're all very busy, by the way. Getty's obviously his bass is just badass on anything. If you watch it live on the Grace Under Pressure tour, he's just killing it, crushing it. And Alex, the thing about the song too, it sounds like he's not that busy. He's just going dun dun dun. But if you listen to it closely, Alex is playing a very busy guitar part. Because he's playing around, he's letting Getty shine, but he's also. It sounds like two guitar players. Sounds like two guitar players, and in the verses, but also the choruses too. The pre-choruses and the choruses, really, for that matter. But the verses and the pre-choruses, it's like Alex. It's seemingly a very simple part, but if you listen closely, a lot going on there. And Neil's very Oh my God, my favorite part of the song is Neil's drums. Neil's drums are so tasty and so busy and so tight, airtight. The airtight, the precision. Again, I come back to this. I talked about this with signals. Their precision is shown perfectly on this song, The Ending Within. Listen to some of the little licks that Neil does in the verses, the pre-choruses, and the chorus after he says experience to extreme. That's one of my favorite vocal parts with Getty on this album is when he goes experience to extreme and he holds it. It just sounds so good, and the keyboards in that part and the textures are really nice. When they did it live, there was some cool lasers and stuff. Um, Very tasty song. That's what it is. Very tasty, and the lyrics hit home. Side two opens with a bang with the body electric and another killer track, man. Um, I remember when like I said, when they played this on the radio, I thought it was badass. Very different for them, yes. The roboticness, but that's part of the lyrics. The android that's on the run, so the music's trying to match what the lyrics are about. This android or computer person or cyborg, whatever. Um, to me, the lyrics sound really good. You know, it's talking about, I guess it's supposed to be about an android or a cyborg uh, trying to break free and maybe become a person or have emotions or like Robocop or something. But to me, the 1001, all the different lyrics, I got the lyrics here, you know, they're just very tasty. They sound good, you know. Memory banks unloading, bytes break into bits. Unit One's in trouble and he's scared out of his wits. Like, it just sounds good when he sings it. The way Getty sings it, I always gravitate towards the way it sounds, and this song sounds really cool. Great keyboards in the choruses. The bass is badass, and the thing about this song too, Body Electric, I like a lot, is it gets busier and busier, and the band gets more badass as it goes along. It gets busier and busier. Getty, Neil, and Alex. By the end of the song, um, they're just on fire. Alex's guitar solo is on fire, really jamming. Like I said, really different from what he's done before. And I think in the making of it, he said he had a hard time trying to find what to play. He was hitting racking his brain trying to figure it out. And then he just said fuck it. He went crazy and just was spontaneous. And that's the thing about it. A lot of spontaneous guitar solos and riffs and things on this album. And I think the best example is Body Electric guitar solo. It's so tasty, so tasty. Very tasteful album, Grace Under Pressure. And a lot of fans of Rush want to hear them do like La Via Strangiata, Hemispheres, and stuff like that. I get that. I know I like a lot of bands that are busy with a lot of difficult odd time signatures and field changes every 5 minutes. But at the same time, one of the hardest things to accomplish as a musician is being tasteful. Being tasteful. Like the choruses in Enemy Within, where they're just playing simple little bits, and just creating atmospheres, creating a vibe, and vocally have the words sound good. Getty's not screaming like he used to, but his voice sounds really good. And the guitar parts, the guitar solos are tasty. Like Alex is hitting a chord, letting it ring. It sounds tasty. Da, 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 da. It's tasty. You know, I like that. Badass. And next song, Kid Gloves. Again, the relentlessness of this album. Um, this song is so upbeat, kind of like the way Analog Kid was. And they both have Kid in the title. But it starts out with the riff. The main riff is in 5/4. So again, the sound is different, maybe overall with the sound, but Rush is still very much prog, and The opening riff in Kid Gloves is no exception. 5/4, dun 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 dun, and he's using a little echo. It sounds really unique, um, really cool. And then the verses and the choruses just so upbeat, so very snappy, very kicks ass. Dun, 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 dun. Like Kid, like Analog Kid. It's got that really upbeat. I'm trying to find the best words, but just kicks ass. Guitar solo again, another chordal solo, very spontaneous, very you know, it's almost like Free Will, but more just snappy and more tasty. Instead of trying to play really fast, you know, Alex did that already. He's going for more hitting chords and playing other stuff. Um, very jamming, very jamming. Um, the song doesn't let up musically like that. Lyrically, lyrically, this song is very personal. I think this is one of the more personal songs on the album. Believe it or not, um, I think it's about the band, either the band or the crew or something happened when they were making this album because it was a very difficult album to make. Grace Under Pressure, the theme, Grace Under Pressure, pressure, whether it be in the world and personally, it's that pressure and release, right? But they will deal with pressure with this album. This was at a time coming after moving pictures and singles and permanent waves where they were becoming multi-platinum band. And this is the stage with a lot of bands, and it did turn out to be that way with a lot of the bands, other rock bands at the time, where they either broke up or somebody left the band or there was trouble. They could have broke up. I remember at the time, too. Remember people rumoring, "Oh, they're gonna break up. They're gonna break up." I remember at the time hearing that because all the other bands would go through when they go through that success, it could go to their heads, and they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to do with themselves. What to do, the money and the attention and the pressure. There's so much pressure to make another moving pictures and to do another. So they would deal with that, and they had to look for a producer, all this other stuff. So I think, and they were in the studio a long time, longer than they expected to be. It was winter. I remember getting an interview saying it was dead of winter. I think he even said that they're having cabin fever, stuff like that. That's why the next two albums, Power Windows and Holy Fire, they traveled around the world and changed studios every couple months to mix it up because they said let's not do that again. Let's not stay in the same studio too long. Now later on they went back, but that was after they whatever. But Kid Gloves, come back to Kid Gloves. I think they had a fight. I think they had an argument. They probably were just frustrated, got pissed off, when making an album because it's hard to make an album, especially when you're trying to make something as good as what you did before. So I think somewhere along the line, personally, this is my opinion. I think they maybe had an argument or something. And look, they're bros. We know that they're bros. And bros, the band is like a marriage. It's a family. It's all that stuff. And you're gonna have your battles. And I think this is one of those songs that was written after one of the battles when they were making this album. Obviously, they ironed it out. Everything's cool. Everything's good to go. But they wrote a song about it. And that's the thing. They didn't. They didn't. Hey, everybody. They didn't run around and kill each other. They wrote a song about it. Kid Gloves is about that. When you look at some of the lyrics, sorry about that. Uh, Learning the lesson that it's cool to be so tough, tough to be so cool. You know, like I think when it says cool to be so tough, I think it's being sarcastic. Like, what do you think you're tough? Yeah, you learn a lesson. You think you're really cool, huh? You were tough, so yeah, you know, tough guy, huh? And then it reverses it. Tough to be so cool because it says, what does it say? A world of indifference, heads and hearts so full, careless of the consequence of constant push and pull. Anger got bad knuckles. Anger play the fool. Anger wear the crown of thorns. Reverse the golden rule. Then you learn a lesson that it's tough to be so cool. So it's like you thought you were you thought you were cool, huh? You thought you're being cool, you're really just being an asshole. Or whatever. Like that's probably how the conversation went, right? They probably made up for it afterwards. As people get pissed off, making an album, it can get frustrating. So I think the album just reflects that and talks about kid glove. Handle with kid gloves. Look, be cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Just chill. Handle with kid gloves. Take it easy. Chill. Next song, Red Lenses. Um, Very different song for Rush. This is probably the most radical song on the album. Now, I watched a video the other day where a guy was talking about it, and he liked it. Where he mentioned the fact that a lot of fans think this is one of the worst songs Rush ever did. And I beg to differ. Now, when you first hear it, yeah, like the rest of this album, it's an acquired taste. It is. Especially if you started out with 2112, Moving Pictures, the classics, classic Rush. If you're coming from classic Rush and then hitting yourself with this album, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. This is not like those albums. Even though, like I said before, overall, when you get used to it, you realize, oh, it still sounds like Rush. It's just they reinvented themselves, It's still there. The Rush trademarks are all still in there. Like before, there's a lot of energy too, but it overall sounds different. Red Lenses, very different. Now, one thing that's very different is, especially with the verses, the red section, I see red, funky. They're getting funky. Getty's getting funky. Very rare for Rush, because a lot of the stuff is hard rock, and okay, a little ska, a little reggae, but here they're getting funky. Now, the '90s, you'd see a lot more of that because funk and rock was a little more going on with the Chili Peppers and Primus and things like that. But that didn't mean that Getty wasn't trying to funk out. And in this song, in the verses anyway, he's funking out like a motherfucker, especially at the end of the song. Very jamming the verses, the main verses, the red parts, and then you get into I don't know what do you call it. There's no chorus in this. That's weird. Or I guess the verses are choruses. I don't know. This song is so weird, but the other part, da 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 da, you know, it's almost like big band meets like a marching band, especially in the middle section and stuff. There's a little bit of a change with the keyboard when they come in, but a bunch of synthesizers in the other in part B, the B part. Alex is getting funky too. I said Getty was getting funky. So is Alex, playing a lot of funky chords. Da 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 da. It's funky. It's also like then a little bit of big band, a little bit of marching band with the. I could see like a football marching band playing that kind of thing. But and then like I said, very textured in the beginning of the musical interlude before it gets into the big band. But the end of it, the best part of the best. I haven't even gotten into the lyrics, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But the best part of the song is, and they put it in the drum solo on this tour. Instead of YYZ, they did the drum solo of Red Lenses. And when he was coming out of the solo, the drum solo on this song is where they resume the song. And where it says, and the mercury is rising, barometer starts to fall, that whole section. It gets to us all. That part is so awesome. I love that. They brought that back on Power Windows. Go on YouTube and look for the Power Windows tour where they do that. And it is so jamming. They do like from there to the end of the song. And it is so funky and jamming. Like that verse, you could jam on that for hours. If you're in a band, 3 guys, do that. Just let's jam the end that part of Red Lenses. Just that part alone. And you could go on and on and on. And the lyrics, obviously playing around with the word red. And just throw it at you line by line, different everything in the kitchen sink to do it red. It's just about images. It's just kind of like trying to hit you like with a ton of bricks, line by line. I see red. Pretty cool. I'll get more into that later in a lyric video. Um, and then the final closer is Between the Wheels. My favorite track on the album. It was the first track I heard, as I mentioned before, and it is so badass. It's funny. Like the only song where they say "Under Pressure" is, I think, is "Enemy Within." But to me, Between the Wheels is closest thing they have on here to a title track. It could have been called Race Under Pressure, but Between the Wheels got the votes, and it makes sense. What's the difference? I mean, Between the Wheels is about pressure. Between the wheels, getting run over by life. Between the wheels, and the wars in our time. You know, uh, the music is so dissonant and dark and badass. That opening riff that Getty plays. Da 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 da. I mean the D note that comes in off the synthesizer, and Alex with the detuned guitar. So badass, so freaking badass. When they brought that back on the R30 tour, it was a dream come true. I said that before. I'll say it again because it sounded so heavy and so awesome. Guitar solo, oh my god, best guitar solo on the album. So full of emotion. Uh, it's so, like I said, tasteful. It's emotional. The Neil and Getty behind them. It's just I can't put it to words how incredible it is. Um, the verses are so dissonant and like using that ska rip, but da, and doing it the Rush way and making it a Rush riff, right? And then the pre-choruses, they're off to the races in typical Rush style, and then the choruses are so emotional. So it has a little bit of everything. It has that if the verses and pre-choruses are like more like talking about the pressure, all the pressures of the world, the wars, all the stuff going on, and it couldn't be more relevant today. 10 years ago, I guess you could say that. I mean, the pressures of everything. The world weighs on my shoulders. He mentioned that in those songs. This talks about all that. Oh my God, can you spare another war, bro? He says that in the lyrics somewhere. It's like one of those songs. There's many songs in their career. I think Test for Echo's another one. The song Test for Echo, where it's like, dude, what the fuck, man? Enough is enough. Come on, can we just get along? Like, come on. So that's kind of the vibe. Um, that rabbit feels going under your speeding wheels. That's badass. Um, Go from boom to bust, dreams of bowl of dust. From rockets red glare to brother, can you spare another war? Another war, another wasteland, another lost generation. I mean, that's profound. I mean, lost generation. You think of Vietnam. You think of, you know, Iraq War. A lot of these wars. How many people dying? I'm another generation gone. But it's about all that. But again, there's that release in the choruses. It's so emotional. It goes through your body, and like I said, the guitar solo echoes that, and it's like it kicks it up a notch. That's the thing about it. When they play a song, all these songs are like that on this album, where they introduce parts, right? But then when they come back the second time or the third time, it's more intense than the first time. They hit you harder. They do that in every song here, um, where it gets better and better. It gets more intense, and harder hitting and everything. And this song is no exception. When you get to the guitar solo, there's vocals too. It's getting more and more. The one thing about this album is Getty's vocals are way more. There's a lot more urgency compared to Signals. Signals, his vocals was very chilled out, um, and stuff like that. But on this album, way more urgency. And I think he said that in interviews. Um, on this song, that's why I'm glad I heard this song first because you got to hear Getty. where he says that can you spare another war? The last time he sings it, his voice gets up high. Brother, can you spare another war? The whole part. Getty's vocals are just incredible in the song. He hits that high note, and that's the one thing that's cool about. Like in the old days, he used to screech and sing high all the time, right? And it was cool and everything. And for some people, it's an acquired taste. I never had a problem with it. But in these, like from Permanent Waves on, Getty started using like a toolbox, and finding the right moments for those high parts. So we hear it on Free Will, right, when they come out of the solo and everything. You hear it in a lot of songs, subdivisions, and Tanacaton. So it's a great tool because it kicks the. You have the guitar solo, which is already kicking the song up a notch, and then Getty comes in with that vocal. You can't wait for it, and it really just brings the song to a climax. And then the end of the song, it's like the jamming and closing out the album, fading it out. And that's another part you could just play over and over. Jam out with a bunch of friends, you know. But it's such a dark song. It's such a edgy song. That's very edgy. Very edgy. One of my favorites. But that's the album. Like I said, I'll probably revisit this album and talk about maybe anything maybe didn't mention or forgot about, especially the lyrics. Um, More deeply, more deep dive, whatever. Um, what else can I talk about? They made some great videos for this album. Like I said, they made a lot of videos. More than half the album. The videos, it started with Just Another Warning. Like I said, that was a great video. Um, Very colorful. The band has a lot of energy. Look like they're having fun. Like I said, new image with Getty with the mullet and the Steinbrenner. And I remember that red guitar that Alex had. My first really cool guitar that I had was a Ibanez, and it looked just like that red guitar in the video. When I saw that guitar, I was like, I gotta have that. It looks like what Alex has. Great video, but also After Image had a good video. Red Sector A had the live video from the Grace Under Pressure tour, and then Within and Body Electric were kind of like a similar video. Which, here's a picture of the way that looked. That was the vibe for Body Electric and Enemy Within. Now the Body Electric, you could hardly see them. They made it really hard to see the man, but in the Enemy Within, you could see him better. But I'll tell you what, I love the pictures the best of this. And, look, it's in the past now, but it would have been cool if the live concert, if the stage had looked like something like this. Maybe with his rise and going up. But if the stage had looked something like this whole Alien, Blade Runner vibe, that would have been cool. That would have been really cool. I love this image. There's another one here. I love that. Now he is with the Rickenbacker. Now he still had it in that video. The song probably says, "Hey man, put the video," but that was just for the video. He was really into Steinberger. That was more like it looked cool though. It looked really cool. It fit the thing. Um, but yeah, they were really into this album. I played the whole album live. I think the first part of the tour they did After Image, and then the second part they dropped that and did Kegels. But somehow they got all the songs in. Uh, I didn't get. This is another thing about Grace Under Pressure is this is the first tour that I saw. My first Rush concert was Grace Under Pressure, but it was late in the tour. It was in September 17, 1984. But the tour started a lot earlier than that. It was like I think April, May. I think it was like May or something. But they have a lot of bootlegs on YouTube that are really cool to see. But I saw them a few days before they filmed the video for Grace Under Pressure. But it would have been nice to have the whole set list too, because the entire concert deserves to have the whole set list with all the songs. But it was a great first concert. I remember taking the train into Madison Square Garden. With my sister took me with her friends and all the fans on the train and smoking weed and, and drinking beers and everything like that. It was a really cool experience and they were electric. Uh, Now I think some of the tours that came after I liked better in terms of the set list. That because Rush got better and better. It was really difficult because they had about 2 hours to play a show, and you know it wasn't until later when they started doing evening with that they were able to really get a lot more variety and a lot more comprehensive set lists where they could get songs from just about every album. But at this time, though, their headspace, they were into Grace Under Pressure, Signals, Moving Pictures. They played a lot of moving pictures on the Grace Under Pressure tour. A lot of moving pictures, and they played. One thing that's cool about Rush is they played songs that they didn't play before, like Witch Hunt, because they had to play the Fear trilogy, uh, but also Vital Signs was in there because again they were trying to. They felt proud of that song. They wanted. They're like, dude, people, fans, check it out. You might not think you like it, but you gotta hear it. And so they were really proud of Vital Signs, and now they put it in the encore. I think um, it was a good tour. It was a lot of energy, but I thought the best part of this tour was the songs from the new album. I gotta be honest. So some of the older fans will disagree and say there wasn't enough old material. Look, their headspace was different. They were moving on. They were moving on from Xanadu and stuff. I remember going. Was wanting to hear Xanadu and the trees and some of those, but I understood. I understood that they were just they did do the trees in the next tour, but and they wouldn't play Xanadu until Presto, at least half of it. But they were into these albums. They were into the new stuff, and rightfully so, because that's where their heads were at. But that was a good. It was a good tour. Videos. Like I said, the fans had mixed feelings. I know a lot of my friends, my one friend Blake, if you ever watched this, hey Blake, um, me and him were all in with Grace Under Pressure. We were all in with the new vibe. But some of my friends and people that I know who were Rush fans before were not into it. They liked the old school Rush. I guess I hate to call them traditional because they've never been traditional. They always done their own thing. But whatever, what 2112 and stuff like that, hemispheres. But I was all in. We were all in. The band too. I think we're happy with this album compared to Signals. Um, at the time, I know Alex was very happy with it, having more guitar up front and everything. Um, Great guitar sound. I mean, guitar on this album is incredible. The thing about this album too, number one, it was the first time. Remember, this is my first album after I got into them that I was anticipating and got the next album, and it was my first next album. I got to realize with my friends that there were two kinds of fans. There was the fans that went with the ride, that went along from album to album, and there were fans that come and go. That come and go. They jump on the bandwagon when the band's popular. Moving Pictures, Permanent Wave, Signals. Band was really, really popular. And then, now, I'm going to say Rush changes, right? They've always been changing. I said this in the last album. They've been changing since day one, since the first album. You go from Rush, Fly By Night, Crest Steel, 2112, all the way down the line. Each album is its own thing. They're all different from each other. They make an album and they go, we've been there, done that, we're moving on. Okay? That's the way they've always done it. This isn't something new that they're turning the page and starting a new chapter and reinventing. They've always been reinventing. They've always been reinventing. Look at how they went from, hey baby, it's 7:45 to By Torn the Snow Dog. I mean, that's 6 months later, and then Crest of Steel, The Fountain of Lemon, whatever, No One at the Bridge, and the Necromancer. I mean, always changing, always constantly changing. Um, it's inevitable, inevitable. So, but anyway. So there's core fans that stick with the band no matter what, and then there's fans that jump on when they're popular because it's a cool thing to do. I've never been one of those fans. I realize, all right, I'm the kind of fan I don't care what's cool, what's hip. This is a band I love, and I don't give a fuck. I love it, and that's that. I'm not trying to be cool. This is what I like. There's other people who actually go along with it because it's a cool thing to do. And then when it's not cool, they don't listen. I mean, there's bands, other bands too that, but like that, where they're so popular and everything, and then when they're not popular anymore, people act like, "What? I hate that band." Oh, I hated that band. Yeah, right. How did they get? How did bands like Creed and Nickelback say what you want? I know, like how do bands like that get multi platinum if no one's buying the record? Somebody's buying the record, but they're multi platinum, right? And then all of a sudden, years later, oh, I hate that band. Oh my god, like, yeah, you probably bought it. I'm just saying those people that are saying that are probably the people that bought it. And then when it wasn't cool anymore, they were just going along with the crowd. I've never been that kind of fan. I don't give a fuck. If I like something, I like something. So that's what I realized. I realized it wasn't for everybody. Rush is not for everybody, and not every album is for everybody. There's people that come and go. I was with them every album, thick and thin. Me and Blake, same thing. Um, but the band, I think, was pretty proud of it. Although, producer-wise, obviously they improved the next album. We'll talk about the next album, about that, about the sound of the next album compared to this, how that blew me away. Um, it's good they got a proper producer the second time. This album was kind of produced by them, which is kind of cool in a way. But yeah, no, very dense album, very cool sounding, very fun tour. First time seeing them, uh, and it was great. Like I said, I'll come back and talk about the lyrics more fully another time. And that's about it. So um, I'm just going with the flow with these videos. I know I say and I know and I know I kind of might be hard to understand sometimes, but no, I'm just being real, man. I'm being real, just talking about my favorite band, my passion. And I don't care if one person watches or 500 or 1,000. Obviously, the more the merrier. But I'm just doing this for me because it's fun to do. But that's about it for now. I'll come back another time. The next time I'll go. We're gonna go with Power Windows next. Um, because I love this period. This is my golden era for Rush. Was the '80s. Um, and like I said before I bought this album, I did go back and get Fly By Night, Crush Steel, 2112 was another one. So I got to know them a little bit. I didn't get to know every single song, but I remember getting. Uh, they had that thing where you send a penny and you get a box of tapes or a box of records. Columbia, what was it called? And we got a box of tapes, and one of them was 2112. I remember putting it on, hearing Temples Zering, Overture and Temples Zering's first time, and that blew me the fuck away. I know all you guys that love 2112. We all understand that. But yeah, 2112 was cool. Took me a long time to get around to all the songs, but initially, those first two hit parts of the 2112 kicked my ass. But I got that, X Stage Left, and then as I got closer to seeing them in concert on the Grace Under Pressure tour, I got to getting to know the songs better because I wanted to be ready for the concert. So X Stage Left taught me a lot about Xanadu and the Trees, and Bruce Bane. Via Strangiata took a little bit longer to really absorb and understand. It's like another language here, La Via Strangiata. But I got to know the band a little bit better, I gotta say. I think by the next album, I got to know them a little bit better. I'll be honest though, but it took me a long time to get around to all of Rush's body of work. Probably like around Press to Roll the Bones is probably where, by that time, I probably heard just about everything. But slowly but surely, I was learning Xanadu. Really loved Xanadu. X Stage Left was just great. Like I said, great place to start. Anyway, I'll get more into that another time. But yeah, it was a fun ride going from Signals to Grace Under Pressure, and everything. But from going from Grace Under Pressure to Power Windows was another great transition. You know. We'll talk about that next time. Okay, I'm rambling on. Everyone have a great Christmas, and we'll do this another time. Peace out.